a stand mixer, we're going to add sugar, then melted butter and vanilla extract. Then add sour cream and mix everything together until it's nice and smooth. Then add flour, which I have already sifted through, and baking powder, and mix everything together until it's combined. And keep adding flour 1 tablespoon at a time until it's all nice and mixed in. The dough will be nice and crumbly, but that's okay. We're going to take the dough out, place it onto the counter and knead the dough together so it's just combined into a nice ball. So just as much as you can, make sure it's all in one piece. Wrap the dough in cling film, nice and tight, and we're going to place this into the freezer for about 1 hour. Next thing we're going to do is line our baking tray with some baking paper, and I'm going to use the larger grater and unwrap your frozen dough, and you have to work quite quickly because it's easier to grate the dough when it's frozen. And we're going to start by just grating it until it's finished. So you will see nice small pieces like that. Just keep grating it until you have the whole tray of the dough which is grated. It should still be frozen. Just spread it around, make sure it's even. And we're going to bake this for about 35 to 40 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. But keep an eye on it, see how it goes, because it depends on your oven. Next, we're going to make our caramel sauce, so add unsalted softened butter into your stand mixer. And then we're going to whisk the butter for about 5 minutes until it's nice, creamy and fluffy. We want it completely fluffy and white. Then add 1 tablespoon of caramel at a time and just keep mixing that in. We're going to keep adding caramel 1 tablespoon at a time until you finished your caramel. And you can then scrub the bowl, make sure that everything is incorporated together. Make sure the butter that's stuck on the sides is completely mixed in. This process will take 5 to 10 minutes altogether. You want it nice and fluffy mixture. This is optional, but you can add some walnuts into a bag and crush the nuts by using a rolling pin, or you can also use a food processor. And then we're going to add these crushed walnuts into our caramel mixture. If you don't like nuts, do not add the nuts at all, that's absolutely fine. But then give this all a good mix. Now, when your cake is ready, you will see that it's browned around the sides, so that's perfect. You're gonna get that crunchy layers. Now we're gonna take a rolling pin and bash the cookies all the way through until it becomes nice and crumbly texture. Just like that. You want to have different types of cookies from smaller to large. And then we're gonna add this into our caramel bowl. Keep adding your biscuits, and then we're gonna mix everything together until it's completely incorporated. You should have enough cookies and enough the sauce to make sure that the mixture is nice and sticky and still a little bit wet, so you can shape it into any shape that you like. But traditionally it has to be looking like an ant's nest. So then take a large tablespoon into the presentation plate and just keep building it up, and then I used my hands to shape it up into the shape that I want, just like that. Next, I'm grating some dark chocolate. You can use any chocolate you want, and this is gonna represent the little ants, so we're gonna drop that on top and around and cover pretty much the whole cake in grated chocolate. And it's fine if a little bit goes on a plate, it just creates even a cooler effect that this is an ant's nest cake with little ants around. So then we're gonna place this into the fridge for about 1 hour so it's nice and set. And there you go, beautiful, beautiful caramel and cookie cake, muraviennik in Russian. And the knife should go through nice and well. You know, you are gonna have still some cookies that are harder than others, but it should be quite a soft cake. and just serve it like that, and it goes so well with a cup of tea or coffee. I have warmed up my milk to lukewarm, and we're going to add sugar, fast action dry yeast in there, and about 2 tablespoons of flour. You can see our yeast is nice and activated. Into a bowl, add your melted butter, vanilla extract, add your eggs, add your milk and yeast, and your flour. Add your dough onto a floured surface. The dough will be really nice and soft, so just knead it for a little bit. Place your dough back into your bowl, and I've oiled it with some vegetable oil. Just roll it around and turn it around, and we're gonna leave it to rise. So our dough has risen and doubled in size. Look at that beautiful dough. Add some flour onto your surface, and we're gonna roll out the dough. Cut it in half. We're gonna roll out each piece separately. Then add your poppy seed filling and spread it around. We're going to leave a little bit of the dough here because we're gonna seal it with this side. I like a lot of poppy seed mixture, but you can put less. All we do now is take it from the side and start rolling it up and down into a sausage. Roll your poppy seed roll just across. Use some egg yolk and coat the pastry. It's okay if some of the bits are coming out because it's all gonna be nice and baked. We're gonna add our flour, and this is plain flour with a pinch of salt, our sugar. Give it all a really good mix. And we're going to add our cold cubed butter in here, and it needs to be cold. We're just gonna mix it all together, and you want to get that sandy consistency. Now we're gonna add very cold water, and we're gonna add a little bit at a time. If you just keep moving it up and down, it will start to form a nice dough. So once you have your dough, we're just gonna cut 1/3 off, and we're gonna leave this for decoration. That's where you're gonna create some magic. We're gonna wrap this in cling film and place in a freezer. Very easy. Peel some apples, cut them in quarters.
Juice from 1/4 of a lemon. Pour all the sugar in, yeah. And a teaspoon of cinnamon, butter, and about 1.5 tablespoons of flour. Yeah, the smell that's coming off there is delicious.
Put the tart on a plate. We're just gonna roll out a nice piece of dough.
And big enough so it goes up the edges as well, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
You take a rolling pin and you just go around, and that gets rid of any excess pastry.
That's amazing. Great.
Cut into different slices and figures, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Pastry is nice and cold, just from the freezer. And we're gonna fill it up with our apples. So last thing really is to get some egg wash.
Okay.
Place your apple pie into preheated oven at 180 degrees for about 40 to 60 minutes.
I'm gonna let you do that.
Okay.
That smells delicious.
And this is such a great pie for Easter, you know. You can just serve it up to your whole family with a big scoop of vanilla ice cream. So here it is. I am using 8-inch or 20 centimeters cake tins. We are going to spray each cake tin with some spray and then line it with some parchment paper. Into a bowl, sift all your dry ingredients, your flour, baking powder, soda, and all your spices. Mix well and combine everything together. Into a stand mixing bowl, we're going to add our eggs, vanilla extract, brown and caster sugar, your vegetable oil. We're going to mix it all until it's nice and smooth. Add your mixed flour. Add your coconut shreds, your raisins. Mix that in. Add your grated carrots. Add your crushed walnuts, lemon and orange zest, and lastly the pineapple. Give it all a really nice and gentle mix. So your cake mixture is nice and ready, look at that. Divide the mixture evenly. I like to weigh it so my cakes come out exactly the same. Take the cakes out of your tins and we're going to cut it in half, and I'm using a serrated knife. Add the first layer of your cake. Spread your buttercream around the cake. Add your second layer on top and repeat with the buttercream. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I like to give it quite a rustic look. And then you can go around the edges and just smear all that buttercream together. Lastly, I've got some crumbs left from the cake and we can just go around and decorate it. Use orange icing to do the carrot and then the green one to do the leaves. Once you've done all your carrots, your cake needs to go back in the fridge so it's nice and set. I have warmed up my milk to lukewarm and we're going to add sugar, fast action dry yeast in there, and about 2 tablespoons of flour. You can see our yeast is nice and activated. Into a bowl add your melted butter, vanilla extract, add your eggs, add your milk and yeast and your flour. Add your dough onto a floured surface. The dough will be really nice and soft, so just knead it for a little bit. Place your dough back into your bowl and I've oiled it with some vegetable oil. Just roll it around and turn it around and we're going to leave it to rise. To make your filling, add your brown sugar with cinnamon, add butter, so our dough has risen and doubled in size. Look at that beautiful dough. Add some flour onto your surface and we're gonna roll out the dough. Spread your cinnamon sugar mixture all over your pastry. And you want to leave a little bit around the edges here because we're gonna roll it up. So then start rolling from the top and just up and down and then roll it up. So usually what I do, I mark it in the middle, so just cut it in half. So I have filled my tray and we're gonna leave it to puff up again for another half an hour. Look at that, they're all nice and risen. So I'm just gonna brush it with some egg wash on top. While our cinnamon buns are baking, we're going to make the icing. Add your icing sugar with vanilla extract and milk and mix it through. Drizzle your cinnamon buns with some icing. We're going to need eggs, soda, vinegar, flour, sugar, sour cream and green Granny Smith apples. Add your eggs into a bowl. Add your sugar. We're going to whisk that until it's nice and fluffy. Add a little bit of vinegar into your baking soda so it starts to bubble up. And add that into your mixture. Add your flour. Mix just until it's all incorporated. Do not overmix the mixture. Add your apples to the pan. Pour your batter. Place your cake onto your cooling rack and just run a knife around the cake. Gently peel off the parchment paper.